Hello friends, this is Marcel. In this video, I'm going to tackle the question of why sexual sin is such a big deal. To begin with, I don't know why sexual sin is such a big deal. What I do know is that all through the Bible, from the Old Testament throughout the New Testament, all the way up until the book of Revelations, sexual sin is strongly warned against. Sexual sin seems to be a hallmark, or actually a line in the sand. The continuation of sexual sin is something that separates us from God. It separates us from officially serving Jesus. It's a really big deal. It's something that we cannot rationalize our way out of. Now, it reminds me of when the Israelites were being led out of captivity. They had to travel through the wilderness, or perhaps it was a desert, toward the promised land. And because of their stubbornness and their lack of submission to God, they had to stay out there and wander for, I believe it was like 40 years, until like that whole generation died. But what I do remember from that is that every single day they had to rely on God for their provisions, their manna from heaven. They couldn't store it up. They just had to get up and get it from day to day, get their daily supply. When God told them to wait, they had to wait. Sometimes it took a really long time and they were antsy and ready to go. When God said go, they had to stop whatever they're doing and go. When God said go this way, they had to go this way. When he said go that way, they had to go that way. And if God said turn around and go back to where I just brought you from, that's what they had to do. So that is one situation where we just had, we as mankind just had rules to follow. They didn't make sense to us. We didn't understand them. That didn't make a difference. God expected us to follow those rules all the same. It was just a matter of, are you going to obey God or not? Make your choice. It even goes back to the book of Genesis, when Adam and Eve had this tree of the knowledge of good and evil sitting right there in front of their face, and God said, don't eat from that tree. He didn't explain to them why. They just had to make a choice, either obey God or don't obey God. And that brings us back around to sexual sin. I don't understand why it's such a big deal. I don't know why it doesn't feel like a big deal. When I talk about sexual sin, I'm talking about everything that's listed as a sin. I'm talking about adultery, fornication, pornography. The Bible says that it is against homosexuality. So it's just one of those things that we just have to just choose to obey, and that's not something that God seems to be playing around with. Now, I'll end this by saying there is a lot of debate in our culture as to whether or not homosexuality is wrong. And the thing about it is this: even if it feels right, even if it's right for you as an individual, the fact that the Bible says don't do it, just don't do it. Do you know how many things there are in the world that feel great and feel natural that we are just not allowed to do? For heterosexuals, sex feels just as great as it does for homosexuals. If the Bible says don't do this, then don't do it. It's just a matter of being obedient. That's the key. Not being obedient because we understand why, just being obedient because the Bible's clear about it. This is Marcel. See you next time.